Survive and Advance on the Gruely Crew Sports Network. Survive and Advance is brought to you by Replenishing Care Technologies. You can go on our website, click on it, and find all out about the PEMF machine. I'm your host for Survive and Advance, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I want to introduce, there's no other way to say this, but an Indiana legend. 1981 national champion at Indiana University. Indiana Basketball Hall of Famer. The only shortcoming was losing to a much smaller school in Aurora High School in 1977 in the Indiana High School State Basketball Tournament. I think Aurora's tallest player was 3'4", but 6'8". Steve Risley couldn't handle it. Help me welcome to the show, Steve Risley.
That may be the nicest introduction I've ever gotten from you. It's definitely overstated. I don't know that I'm really a legend. I think that Cheney and Oscar and
I might have been being a little bit sarcastic. But.
Yeah, I think. Oh, you're being. Okay, just get that out there. I don't want people to think I get a big head and swelling head. I'm just a guy who loves the game and loves to talk about the game and loves to talk sports. Spent 5 hours today watching Tiger traipse around Sawgrass. I didn't even go play golf today because I wanted to watch Tiger and Phil play together today, and they both stunk it up. Oh, God, I tell you, it was not good.
All right, so let's go ahead. Since we talked about golf, now we can talk about a sport. The NBA. I'm sorry, Steve. I think
no, that's fine. No, I get it. I think that golf is the greatest combination of physicality and mental toughness that you have to have.
Okay.
To play any sport. And that's what every player coming off the course today said. This course is mentally beats the crap out of you.
Yeah, I know physically it's probably similar to Tom Brady getting hit by a 300-pound lineman.
No, but walking around in 90-degree heat in long pants for 5 hours on up and down hills for people that are not 18 years old.
Isn't this is just stupid because they made golf carts for a reason. Why don't they just use them?
It's the one game left that really honors tradition and integrity. It's the only sport where you call the foul on yourself. Okay? It is the only sport out there where integrity sits above athleticism. Because you call your own self for breaking a rule, you call your own self for cheating. You can't play this game if you don't have integrity. All right? So, and the game started with old Tom Morris and all the guys walking and not riding in a cart.
Yeah, but don't you think in the late 1800s in Scotland or wherever they were playing back then that if they'd had a chance to have a golf cart, they'd have used them?
No, I don't, because you know what the origination of golf was from?
Not a clue.
It was the sheep herders tending to their flocks and got bored out there herding their sheep out in the fields in Scotland and in Ireland and England, and they actually found something fun to do. So they started hitting rocks with sticks. They started putting holes down. And in the field they were doing, there was natural waste bunkers, natural sand bunkers. There was rolling, undulation. There was no greens as we know them today. And they would put a marker down to get the ball as close to the marker as they could. And the game evolved from that premise. So it was a game that was evolved from sheep herders who walked all day for a living. They were farmers, basically.
Yeah, but don't you think
this great game of golf.
Don't you think if those sheep herders could have had a golf cart, they'd have used it?
They didn't. If is the middle word in life. But here's a real fun fact for you. Do you know why? This is legend and lore, but this is the accepted legend. Do you know why golf? Because originally the golf course was really built had anywhere from 7 to 44 holes to 16 holes. Do you know why they finally settled on 18 holes?
Why they settled on 18 holes?
Uh-huh. You don't know the answer to that, do you?
I'm thinking. Because it's got to be something relatively obvious, right?
No, not necessarily, but you'll love it when I tell you the answer. This is why the legend is. It's legend. I mean, it's not written and documented anywhere. You're never going to get it.
I'll get it.
Why
golf
ended up. Oh, you're Googling and looking it up.
I'm not
You
Googling
cheeseball.
it, looking it up.
Yes, you are. You're not going to. Okay. All right. Go ahead and steal my thunder.
Well, I'm not going to steal your thunder. I'm not looking it up.
Because you're Googling it right now.
I'm not Googling it.
Yeah. Well, you're not thinking, because you can't do that.
I can't?
No, not well.
Well, that's just rude, Steve.
Being Dan Dockage today.
Why would you want to be Dan Dockage? Also, you could accidentally, mythically shut down Michael Jordan to 16 points when he played like 22 minutes and got in foul trouble.
He didn't shut down Michael Jordan because I said, Larry Bird said Michael Jordan was God. So therefore, Dan Dockage actually shut down God. He didn't according to Larry Bird, he shut down God, not Michael Jordan. Come on, get it straight. All right, I'm going to tell you now why.
So did Dan Dockage really shut down God?
According to Dan, he did. And Dan Dockage is the verbatim truth on radio.
All right. I know the answer.
Whatever Dan says.
I know the answer to your question, but go ahead.
Tell everybody the answer.
I Googled
Tell everybody the answer.
I Googled it.
Go
ahead.
Tell them what it is. No,
I'm not
go
gonna
ahead.
steal
No,
your
you go
thunder.
ahead. No, go ahead. Because
it's a long answer here.
No, it's not. It's very simple.
The myth was that it was because 18 was how many shots were in a glass of scotch or bottle of scotch.
That's exactly right.
But that
exactly
is not
why
true.
The golf course.
That is not true.
That is the long-standing. I said it was a myth.
Okay, so what's the truth?
That's what I take as the truth because I drink a shot of scotch on every hole I play.
Really? You're from Indiana. If you're from Indiana, aren't you supposed to drink a beer on every hole?
No, I don't drink beer. I don't do scotch either. I would do whiskey. I do Kentucky bourbon. We're close to Kentucky.
You're not close to Kentucky. You're like an hour and a half away.
That's close enough. It's far enough and close enough. But that's the myth of why golf ended up at 18 holes, and that's the one I live with.
But in 1764, the old course in Scotland's first 4 holes were combined into 2 holes, and from then on, a round of golf at St. Andrews consisted of playing the now standard 18 holes.
And they took 2 holes away because there were only 18 shots in a bottle of scotch.
It wasn't. I just looked it up, and on Snoops it says it's false, and only an imbecilic person from Lawrence Central High School would say that.
I bet everybody would rather tell my story than yours.
Yeah, probably.
Let's talk about centers.
All right.
Mine would play better at a party than yours would.
All right. I don't go to parties. I don't have any friends.
I understand why.
I know. People get intimidated by my fact that I know everything. All right. So we are going to take a look at, actually, I wrote an article, the top 8 centers of all time on thegruelingtruth.net. You can check it out on thegruelingtruth.net. But we are going to talk about our top 10 centers in NBA history. And I know, Steve, we've talked about this. We were going to ask each other the same question anyways. But basically, what's your criteria for ranking a center?
Dominance. Dominance at both ends of the court. Ability to control a basketball game, not be reactionary by simply having the ball dumped into you low and just scoring points, but the ability to control the paint offensively and defensively, to be able to communicate well to your teammates because generally the center is the lowest posted player in the game, and therefore you've got the best vision of any defender on the court, and the center should be the one communicating to everybody about screens coming up, about plays developing. So I think the center position played correctly needs to have that physicality, intelligence, versatility, and the ability to dominate a game at both ends of the paint.
I agree. I mean, it's somebody that can do everything. It was like our comparison of LeBron and Jordan, who's the more complete player. That's what it comes down to. Now,
LeBron's the more complete player.
I think this, when you look at it, I don't think that World Championships is an end-all, be-all for this. I think it does
not
come
for the center
play.
Position.
I think it does come into play a little bit.
Right, it does, sure.
But really championships shouldn't come into play or gauging the greatest player ever, because if it did, all these Michael Jordan people would just say Bill Russell is, because that's the argument they use. But let's go ahead and get this started so we don't get stagnated too much with scotch and all that other stuff with the golf.
All right.
I only rank my top 8, so I'll start off with my 9 and 10. And my 9 and 10 are guys that may not be 9 or 10, but I think they're guys that, without injuries, would have been in my top 5. And those two guys would be Bill Walton, who I think was as complete a big man as you could find. He was dominant. The only problem was, after the 1977 NBA Finals, where he led Portland over Philadelphia, which was actually a pretty good upset at that time, Walton was basically hurt the rest of his career. In 1986, he had a solid year backing up Robert Parrish. And my other guy is a guy that you had some experience playing against at IU. He played at the Soviet Union as Arvydas Sabonis, a man who was 7'3", 258. And if you go look up the film before he got hurt and had the feet problems, this is a guy that was 7'3", 258, could shoot a three-point shot without a problem, could take you in the post. It was one of the greatest passers I've ever seen at any position, for whether it be a big man or a point guard. What's your take on Sabonis and Walton? Did they make your list, or?
Yeah, they're both on my list, and I had Walton at number 10. I think the thing that hurt him was his ability to not stay healthy and play consistently long periods of time with his team, and constantly breaking down with injuries. And then I think he probably had great basketball smarts, but his flippantness off the court, to me, signaled really a lack of leadership that I think a center needs to possess, because we all look for the biggest person in the room to kind of lead us, so to speak, many times, where he's the visual acceptance of leadership. But so I had Walton at number 10. I actually had Sabonis a little higher. I tried to look at this, but I'm agreeing with Walton at number 10. I'll give you that. I think he would have been higher had he been able to stay healthy more and play more time in the NBA. I think he was a great center. If you're ranking, he may be the best white center in the NBA of all time. But I just think due to his illness, I think his sickness or his injuries and stuff, it took him away from moving up any higher in the ranking. I had number 9. I had George Mikan. I think this is a guy who did win 7 rings, did play on many championship teams, played a great long career. This was back before the era of what we would call the pure athletes that are playing the game today. But I looked at dominance in his period of time, and I think that Mikan probably controlled the outcome of basketball games as much as, if not more, than any other center played. I just would handicap him a little bit, because I don't think he played against the caliber of players that the centers of the last, the 80s era, 70s era on up play against. So, but I think George Mikan would fall into my number 9 slot.
Yeah, I've got Mikan at number 8. On my original list, I wrote in Willis Reed, but when you look at what George Mikan did, I know the competition wasn't great. When you look at George Mikan, you would think, well, maybe he couldn't play today. Maybe he couldn't have played even in the 70s and 80s, which he may not have been, but I think we're judging the greatness here on what they did during their time.
Right.
So, who's your number 8?
Yeah. Number 8, I had Sabonis. I read Sabonis. Well, I think that with all the reasons you stated, I think what hurts him in terms of he didn't play against the best competition in his career. So we don't know, for the full length of his career, we don't know what he really would have been like playing against the Chamberlains, the Jabbars, the Russells, the Olajuwons, the players of that, that category.
Well, we did see him play against David Robinson in the 1986 World Championships, which the U.S. won the game by like 4 or 5 points. But Sabonis was a better player than David Robinson.
Right, but that's one game. You need to judge just by the career. We're talking about the greatest of all time, not the greatest of any single game. So
yeah, but the thing is this, you just said that we didn't see him play against. We did see it. We didn't see him do it day in and day out. But the fact that he could do that at that point in 1986, and he had already been hurt. He'd already had a couple old knee surgeries, a foot surgery, so that wasn't like that was 100% of him either.
Right.
But who you got?
Okay.
Who you got at number 7?
I got David Robinson. Yeah. I think he started the era of the versatility. He's a shorter center, really. Actually, he was in the Navy, and the rule is the Navy is not supposed to get anybody over 6'7". So because he couldn't fit in a submarine, and everybody had to be able to do submarine duty if you're going to be in the Navy. So I think he started in the Naval Academy at 6'7", but I don't think he was 6'7", 6'10"
Now,
by the time he
actually,
came
the
out.
Naval Academy, going into it, he was only like 6'4", and then by
Yes,
his sophomore
okay,
season,
yeah.
he was 6'8".
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, I didn't have the exact fact, but I know the facts said that he would not have been eligible for Naval Academy. But I think that he began the birth and era of the versatile, the mobile center, the center who could start firing from the 15, 20-foot jumpers with regularity, who could get out on the wing and play the power forward along with the center position, and start the dramatic change of almost where it became the decline of the 7'2" centers being as valuable an asset on your team as you were before. I think he ended up being 6'10", 6'11", based on various press guides you would look at. But in my eyes, he was the first of those versatile type centers because he started the game, as you said, at 6'4", 6'7". He developed ball handling skills, whereas a lot of these guys, before they ever got to the college level, they were already 7 foot tall. And they were just posted at the low post. So I had David Robinson at number 7.
I don't even have Robinson on my list. And I would say my criteria of dominating, to me, I want a physical presence. And I think he was a great, skilled finesse player, but I don't think he fits in with the guys I've got. My number 7 is Elvin Hayes. Played for the San Diego, then Houston Rockets. Played for the Washington Bullets, the Houston Rockets again. He finished his career at. And the thing about Reed was he was one of the most durable players in NBA history. Over 16 years, he played over 80 games in each season. He was a great rebounder who averaged 20 points a game for his career. Led the Bullets to a championship with Wes Unseld in 1979. Or 78. No, it was 1978. They beat Seattle in 7 games, I think, and then they came back in 79, lost in 5. But, I mean, he was a great player, and I think he's a guy that gets vastly underrated. Everybody talks about Magic and Larry and how they put college basketball on the map, but if you look back to 1968 at the Astrodome, he was a part of the biggest basketball game in history until Bird and Magic came along, when they played in front of 50 or 60,000 at the Houston Astrodome, and he actually outplayed Lou Alcindor and upset UCLA.
Right, yeah, and I did not have him on my list. That's probably my fault because I really considered Elvin Hayes to be a forward playing the center position. I looked at the way he played the game almost more as a modern-day power forward, which is what he would be in this day and age. He was far too versatile, and he did things. He did dominate the inside. I can't fault anything you're saying, and it's my mistake. I did not have him on my list only because I just would consider him right now in the line of a great power forward in the NBA and not a center. But yeah. I would buy your argument in a heartbeat.
My number 6
make no doubt.
My number 6 is Shaquille O'Neal. He's about as physically dominating as you can. But believe it or not, to me, I think that O'Neal fell far short of what he should have been on this list. I think at the start of his career, he was a monster. And while he was always dominant, I don't think he ever really improved his skills. And I think if he would have, he might have been the number 1 guy just because he was so physically big and dominating and strong. But I think he's a guy that basically was given a skill set by God and never really tried to improve on his weaknesses. I mean, you can see that just by the free throw shooting. And I don't see how he could really go much higher than number 6 just because of the lack of development of his game as he played.
Okay, well, fine. I actually had him ranked a little higher. My number 6 pick was Moses Malone. I think Moses was, one of the last of the true great dominant centers to play. But he was definitely just a true center. What I didn't like about him, I didn't think he was extremely dominant on the defensive end of the court. And the thing I liked about David Robinson, factor into my account, and Elijah he'll come up here, was those guys busted butt up and down the court. Malone was a guy who jogged up and down the court his entire career. Never played the game, I felt, hard. He just used his physicality, his size, and his just overall strength to dominate under the bucket offensively. But I never considered him to be a great defensive center. He didn't have the ability to guard anybody outside or take anybody outside or I think he let the ball in too easy on defense, and then just relied on the fact that he was 6'11", 7 foot to, make it tough for the guy to shoot over him. So to me, that hurt him in my rankings.
I got him at number 5, and I disagree a little bit, but not a lot. I think the problem with Malone and why he ranks at 5 for me and 6 for you is what you talked about. But I think if you just looked at him from 1981 to 1984, he may be top 3 or 4 because I think he did play defense then. And he took a 500 Rockets team in 1981, put him on his back, upset the Lakers, went on to play the Celtics in the finals. And then later he puts Dr. J on his back and carries him to his first NBA championship and only NBA championship in 1983. And that Sixers team, because of Moses Malone, was one of the most dominant teams in NBA history. I think he was a great player on both sides of the floor, but I do know what you're saying, and it kind of leads into my number 4, who was kind of the same way to me, but I'll leave that for later. So who do you got at number 5?
Number 5, I got Shaquille O'Neal. And a lot for the same reasons that you said. I think that Shaquille probably is the biggest disappointment as a top 10 center. You got to put him on the list because he was dominant. He was able to run the floor fairly well. I think he participated. I think he liked the big plays. He was a flashy player who liked the limelight. Tried to be an actor, tried to be everything. Always wanted to be the focus and center of attention. But I don't think on any given night that he played hard all the time, any given night. And so that kind of hurt him in mind. But I do think you have to look at the overall dominance at both ends of the floor and the pure athletic ability, and the fact that he does have 4 rings. I know we weren't going to really count rings a lot, but he did it with 2 different teams. So to take his skill sets around to multiple teams and do that, I think says a lot for his ability. But I think his lack of night in, night out effort at the position knocks him down to number 5 for me.
All right. Who you got at 4, Steve?
Olajuwon.
Oh, come on, Steve. You can't put Olajuwon ahead or behind Jabbar. Jabbar didn't play defense. He didn't run up down the court. Olajuwon was dominant. But go ahead. Explain yourself.
Okay. I've got Olajuwon only because I think that the 3 above him are so good that there was just no room to put him up any higher. I mean, I think that the longevity of the careers of the 3 above him, the overall body of work of accomplishment, on the whole big picture of playing, just it's as high as I could logically put him. I think he is the greatest modern day center of the game. But we aren't just rating the modern day centers. He played defense hard. He ran the floor hard. He was a great teammate. He did everything he needed to do as a modern day center. But the thing about the top 3 in my book, they did it for longer periods of time. I just had to look at I'd throw that factor into it as well. If I was building a team today, my first pick would probably be Akeem Olajuwon.
Then how can you have him number 4?
Because I think that's where he belongs.
Because Olajuwon had a longer career than Chamberlain or Russell.
Okay, but I don't think that they were as statistically dominant or as team-oriented, team conceptual as the top 3.
Okay, because I don't think you get more of a team center than Olajuwon. But
I agree. I
don't have him much higher because I think there's 2 guys and then everybody else. Actually, I've got Olajuwon at 3. The thing about Olajuwon to me, a lot of people.
And I'm going to tell you right now, I could move Olajuwon to 3 very easily. I can.
What I'm going to do here is I'm going to do a comparison of Olajuwon and Jabbar, and what we talked about.
That's my 3. So that's my 3.
There you
go.
Do it together.
Yeah.
And see, this is
there you go. See,
my difference between the 2 is this. I mean, Jabbar, other than maybe his first title with the Bucks, he was not the centerpiece of the team. Magic was. James Worthy was.
Right.
Hakeem
Right.
Olajuwon won two NBA championships. He was the centerpiece of the team. And I think what really hurts Olajuwon is the fact that Michael Jordan, because of the gambling, because of his dad being killed, and the NBA wanted him out for a couple years. There, I said it. I think that cost Olajuwon a shot to beat those Bulls, which I think they would have, because I don't think the Bulls had anybody that could have competed against him. And if you give him
Right.
even one championship against Jordan, I think that elevates him. But I think this, in the end, to me, the thing that elevated him the most was the fact that he didn't play the Bulls. He played Patrick Ewing, which is a guy that is on most people's top 10 list, and he beat Shaquille O'Neal, who's on our top 10 list. And he made both of them look pathetic in those series. I mean, he dominated them. And when I look at Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, he's a really good defensive player, but I don't think that he dominated on defense the way Olajuwon did.
No, I agree. But where I decided to rank Jabbar above Hakeem was the 10-year of play, 17 years, I think, in the NBA, wasn't it?
He played 20. Olajuwon played 18.
Okay,
and
20 years
stats,
in the NBA.
Their stats are close.
And he's the all-time leading scorer in the game. And that's got to count for something. To do that, and I know the 20 years counts into that, I know, but still, to be effective.
Steve, that's an individual longevity award. That's like saying that Pete Rose is the greatest hitter ever when you've got 100 guys that had better lifetime batting averages.
I agree. I could flip the two very easily. I told you I could flip them. I could flip them, and your argument would probably now make me decide to flip them. I did not think of the top three centers, or the top two. I did not think that Jabbar was anywhere near the top two.
No, but I can tell you this, though. I can tell you this. If I had to have one center to take one shot to win me a game, then Jabbar would be my number one guy.
And that's why. That's probably why. He was a clutch player. He hit that sky hook at the buzzer God knows how many times in his 20-year career. He took that sky hook, and it's like you knew it was going in. Until later in his career, did it not go in?
It was the thing that was impressive about him is 1985, 16 years in at the age of 38. If you remember, the Celtics and Lakers had a rematch of the Great Finals in '84. In Game 1, the Celtics beat the Lakers 148-114. They called it like the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Or they called it something. I forget what the hell it was. But it was some kind of massacre, the Boston Massacre. And Game 2 came out. They're going to fall down 2-0. Boston's got home court advantage. And Kareem comes out and puts up 38 or 40 points in Game 2, leads them to the win, and eventually they win that series. And, I mean, there's not too many guys at the age of 38 that could do that. And against guys like Robert Parrish at the time, who was no slouch himself.
Wasn't the Boston Massacre what started the Revolutionary War?
Not the real Boston Massacre was 1985 when the Celtics won 148-114.
Oh, okay.
I don't think. One. I mean, comparably, it may not be on the same thing as the Boston Massacre, but at least it didn't call the Boston Tea Party.
I like I said, in the modern era of centers, as the position is played today, the mold to build them all is around Hakeem Olajuwon.
Yeah.
So, I just think in the tenure of the history of the NBA, Jabbar would take a notch above him just simply because of the longevity that he did what he did, and to be the NBA's all-time leading scorer, and to be an effective weapon for his entire 20-year career. I mean, even at the end of Chamberlain's career, he was not really an effective weapon. He just was a big freaking body. He was a big freaking body sitting out there taking up space.
It sounds like your dog disagrees with you, Steve.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. Sorry.
All right, so I assume our 1 and 2 are Chamberlain and Russell, one way or the other. I've got Chamberlain 1. Who do you got?
Chamberlain 1.
Nah, I was hoping we'd disagree. I like fighting with
Russell
people.
No.
But the thing that stood out to me is this, Steve. When you look at his stats, I mean, he averaged 30 points and 23 rebounds and almost 5 assists a game.
For his career.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, for his career. Not for a season. That's seasonal a season of that, 2 seasons of that will get you in the Hall of Fame. You do that 2 seasons in the NBA, and you're going to end up being in the Hall of Fame at some point.
You probably should be if you can do that for 2 seasons in the NBA.
He does it for a career. He's the only man ever to average 50 points a game. Imagine going out in 80 basketball games, 70, however many they played in the days he played, and to average 50. Had an off night, scored 47 tonight. Didn't hit my average.
The thing that's a bitch is this. He was like a 50% free throw shooter, too.
I think how many points he threw away, right?
Yeah. I mean, if he shoots 65%, he probably breaks every record playing in just 13 or 14 seasons.
Right. Well, and here's right. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm good.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
I didn't forget what I was going to say. Go ahead.
All right, I haven't. What separates to me, and what defines them is Russell and Chamberlain as the top 2. Chamberlain was, in my eyes, the best complete package athletic center at both ends of the court, dominated and disrupted games more than anybody, okay, and just had the single-handed ability to alter the course of a basketball game on any given night. And statistically, like I said, to average 30 points a game for his career, to average 23 rebounds a game for his career. He was a man among boys during his entire time playing. And I know his stats diminished when he went to the Lakers, but it's because there was no need for him to be doing that.
Yeah,
he still was
Jerry
a big
West,
force.
Elgin
In fact,
Baylor,
Jerry West, Gail Goodrich.
Yeah,
Gail Goodrich. I mean, they had until recently the longest winning streak in the NBA history of the NBA.
Yeah.
33 games, I think it was. But to me, Bill Russell was the most consummate team center ever to play the game. Well, you can't discount 11 NBA championship rings. I know we don't use that as a measure, but you can't discount them. And to be a team player, and probably had Russell played, I don't know, it's a good question with Russell. Would he been as high ranking had he not been on that Celtic dynasty team?
See, I think
I never considered Bill Russell to be that great of an individual center. He just was a great fit on a well-coached, well-funded team. Well-funded, I mean, with talent that fit his role, played his role, and never tried to exceed his role.
Yeah, and I think he averaged 15 points a game for his career.
15 points a game, right?
Half.
Yeah.
But he was asked to do different things. But I think if you switch their roles, Chamberlain still wins 11 championships. Maybe he averages 23 points and 23 rebounds. But I think if you make Bill Russell, you put him on those Sixer teams, you put him on the Lakers teams, I think he's going to come up short most of the time also. And I don't think he was the kind of player offensively, if you watch his skill set, where he could have dropped 30 points a game. Now, I do think you could have been 22, 23. That's why I got him number 2. But I think the difference is this. I think they were both dominant big men defensively. But I think that Chamberlain was a lot better offensive player, and Chamberlain was just probably the greatest athlete over 7 feet tall we've ever seen. I mean, this is a guy that in 1970, 69, 70, somewhere around there, where they really seriously considered matching him in a closed-circuit fight with Muhammad Ali.
Right.
And
I remember that story, yeah.
I know boxing people who saw him spar that to this day swear to me that Chamberlain could have won. Now, I don't buy that. I think it's just the size.
I don't either, but I agree with you. Yeah, I know where you're going. Yeah,
the fact that it would even be a conversation.
In my eyes, in my honest eyes, Wilt Chamberlain is the greatest athlete ever played professional basketball. There was nobody who had more physicality, more skill sets, more gifts, and I think had he played in today's era, his ball handling skills would have been improved big time. I think he had the ability to do that, where I don't think Russell did. I don't think Jabbar did. Elijah would be the next one in that line. Now, to discount a little bit too, with Russell and Chamberlain, basically most of those two only faced each other in terms of facing great talent on most given nights.
Yeah.
Until those two got matched up, there weren't a lot of other great centers.
Well, I think Russell, the only guy he really faced that was that good early in his career would have been what? Bob Pettit from the Hawks?
Yeah, Bob Pettit from the Hawks, yeah.
Maybe the end of George Mikan's career? I don't even know if they would have
end of it, yeah.
The truth.
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that either. But And, Chamberlain got into playing against Kareem and Bob Lanier and some of the guys that were numbered 10, maybe 12, 11, 13 on my list. Willis Reed, guys that we all would say, boy, between 8 and 13, any of these guys could fall in the category depending on what team you like best or, what nuance you wanted to favor in your own brain more. So Wilt played more against those guys, but I don't know there's ever been a greater athlete. Chamberlain, high jump 7 foot or something. Did he do that? Or what do you?
Yeah, he
track
was an
star.
amazing athlete. And the thing
Athlete,
is, the reason to me Chamberlain and Russell are 1 and 2 is the fact that I think you could take a young Chamberlain and a young Russell and drop them in this league right now, and they would dominate.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, I'm not even sure Jabbar would dominate anymore.
I think he would.
Not
He's
to the degree that he did.
7'4", he's got the hook shot. Who's going to guard him nowadays?
I think defenses are more set up to push him out. I think they're a little more savvy. There's more matchup zones out there played right now that the sophistication of the defensive structure of the NBA right now is a lot stronger than it was when he was in his prime.
Yeah, well, everything was man-to-man then.
Yeah, now it's really what's called a man zone. The NBA claims they don't let you play zone, but they let you play zone.
They let you play zone. They got rid of that rule years ago, Steve.
Okay, all right. Well, then shows what I know.
You're allowed to play 2-3 zone.
Okay. Well, that's where I think that Jabbar would be more susceptible to being shut down than would a Russell or Chamberlain. I actually think the two best guys ever to play the position are Chamberlain and his derivative, which would be Hakeem Olajuwon. To me, Olajuwon was the second coming of Chamberlain.
But he was a lot better shooter.
Yes, he was. But, again, Chamberlain's role wasn't to go out and shoot because he had so much dominance inside. I mean, there was nobody other than Russell in the league that could even contest him, let alone stop him.
And I think in the end, it's the argument we have on our boxing shows all the time. You got a guy that was the Jack Dempsey. How does Jack Dempsey compare to the heavyweight champion today? The heavyweight champion today is 6'7", weighs 250 pounds. Jack Dempsey was 5'10", 190. So you can't compare him that way. But to me, skill set wise, I think the best center I ever saw was Olajuwon. But I don't think that you can overlook the impact that Russell and Chamberlain had on the game and the numbers they put up while doing it, and the amount of championships, especially that Russell won.
I agree 100%. And I would take Dempsey over anybody who's world champion in boxing today.
I wouldn't, because Jack Dempsey was horrible.
Well, those guys back then, though, they fought.
He never fought.
They fought with, the boxers in that era fought with heart.
But Jack Dempsey's problem was once he won the title, he wouldn't fight the black contenders. And on top of that, he took like 2 years between each fight. He cherry-picked these fights, and then he lost to a light heavyweight.
That's another story.
We're done tonight, and we're done just under 40 minutes, Steve. That's a new world record for us.
That's good. So we both agree, Chamberlain number 1, Russell number 2. We had a little disagreement on number 3 and 4. We just flipped them.
Yeah.
We both feel the top 4 are
Olajuwon. 5 and 6. So we were pretty much on each other, except for a little switch here or there.
Yeah, no. So I think that's a testament to everybody needs to understand how smart we are.
And I would like to say this also, because I know Dan Dockich has heard the show before, and we weren't trying to be disrespectful, saying he didn't shut Jordan down to the 16 points. But if Dan Dockich ever wants to come on the show and discuss exactly how he held Michael Jordan to 16 points, we would love to have him on. And Dan Dockich was one of my favorite players because he played at IU, and everybody was one of my favorite players that played at IU, except for that Neil Reed kid.
Oh, you had to go there. You had to go there.
Yeah, everybody but him.
I agree with Dan. I agree with your assessment of Dan Dockich. I enjoy Dan's tweeting and his radio show. It's always entertaining.
The thing that I thought that was the coolest about Dan was the fact that he got to call his own kid playing at Ohio State.
Yeah, how good is that?
I mean, what could be better than that?
How good is that? Yeah. Nothing.
And this is the
Nothing
thing.
at all. I mean,
we're not trying to rip Dan. It was just funny when Bobby Knight claimed that he shut him down. Because let's face it, I don't know that anybody ever shut Michael Jordan down.
And I think personally, if you're having a drink with Dan privately, he would tell you the same thing.
Yeah.
I think certainly Dan, good story. It's kind of like the 18 shots of scotch, making 18 holes of golf. It's a legend in the war.
In the end, the important thing about the 1984 NCAA regional semifinal was the fact that Indiana won.
They did. They beat North Carolina. Yes, that is. And that's what's important. Another win for Hoosiers.
Yeah. Yeah. Now we need some.
Okay. Well, we're doing all we can to stretch this out to 45 minutes.
Yep. We're up to 40 right now, so we got to wrap it up. Steve, you want to tell everybody where they can find us on social media?
They can find us on grillingtruth.net, at Grilling Truth, right? That's your site.
Yeah.
At srisley34, at Survive the Magic. It's Survive in Advance is if you search that, or the actual Twitter page is Survive the Magic, because somebody had already taken Survive in Advance. But on any of those locations you can find us. Please tweet us questions. Disagree with us if you want. Tell us why our assessments of great centers is wrong. We will vehemently disagree with you, but that's when it gets fun, because you always learn from conflict if you remain open-minded about conflict. If you get closed-minded about conflict and shut people out, you don't learn. And the whole purpose of this is to listen and learn. That's why God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth.
All right, Steve, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up tonight. We'll be back Sunday night. I'm sure we'll be previewing the Eastern and Western Conference Finals, which are both interesting matchups this year. And I'm sure we'll come up with another topic in between now and then. So keep an eye out on Twitter. We'll tweet Sunday morning or early Sunday afternoon about what the topic will be. And make sure you check out all of our shows on iHeart, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, and pretty much anywhere else you find sports podcasts. So for Steve Risley, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.